too. Like people for desegregation, like people think the internet was some sort of innovation by telecommunication companies. No, that was the government again. The government forcing in there. Kyle wrote a comment. I saw that a reminder that Americans used to love socialism before desegregation. This is a great point. This is a fantastic point because once again, hats off to the capitalists and demonizing socialism and everything. Because guys ever wonder why there's no powerful socialist movement in the United States like there is in Western Europe, where they have strong and vibrant socialist parties and strong and vibrant socialist leaders and stuff, and we don't really have that here. It's because it was strangled in the crib back during the I'd say the late 1800s, early 1900s. Like the closest thing we had to a strong socialist movement was, I'd say, like the Eugene Debs era around World War I and everything. And what the capitalists found out, well, what the working people found out, was that you had Irish and Jewish and Polish immigrants and Black people who were at the bottom of the rung. Like they weren't getting any work. They were being discriminated against. And they found out real quick that they all had the same thing in common, that they were getting fucked over by the ruling class and the capitalist class. And so that's when they moved in and says, okay, here's what we're going to do. Italian people, great news. You're white now. That's the deal. So the real problem is the Black people and the Irish and the Italians. I have a lot of beef with them. They took the deal. They took the fucking deal. It's like, yep, all right, that sounds good. We love to be white people now and worry about Black people taking off. And that race divide that was created then never really healed. And Kyle's right. It is the number one reason, in my opinion, we don't have a strong socialist movement, because you'll find, like with the MAGA folks, for example. I was talking to a friend of mine I went to college with, and I was mentioning about free healthcare. And I was telling the same story I told you about my brother, and how he's paying $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 a month for health insurance, and why he wanted me to pay for his family. And my brother has a really good job, and it's like he's being sucked dry by this. And I said, wouldn't it be good for him and his family if he didn't have to do that? And my buddy said, well, yeah, I mean, I understand that, like your brother and everything. Like, I feel sorry for him. He shouldn't have to do that. But you're telling me some homeless guy, a guy without a job, that he gets free healthcare? Why does he get it? That's how
he fucking needs healthcare.
But that's how they think. That's how they think. It's like, okay, we have, and that's how a lot of a lot of the racists, like MAGA folks, think, yeah, it'd be great if we got that. But man, you're telling me that Mexican immigrants are going to get this? You're going to tell me that the lazy Black people are going to get this? They won't tolerate it. Like I bet if you could guarantee that it was only their neighborhood, like the folks that they live around, they go, oh yeah, perfectly, we'll be responsible. Like we'll take good care of this. But it's pervasive,
Yeah, I mean that goes back to FDR with the New Deal. Like the only way that he was able to get all of that legislation through was because Black people were specifically excluded.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool. Black people are working in agriculture and they're working in these service industries. All right, cool. Well, those are not eligible for minimum wage or any of these other benefits that, we're talking about. It's like as soon as Black people started becoming eligible for all of that shit back in 67 when LBJ signed the civil rights, like then all of a sudden everybody's like, hey, let's look at who's really getting these benefits out here.
But God.
That also brings up a point. I saw a tweet from Butch Ware, like the Green Party VP guy, a few days ago, where he was specifically saying that the reason there's so much, or one of the big reasons that there's so much solidarity for Luigi Mangione is because he's some white kid.
Yeah.
Like if he was Black, like just think about how many hoops. It would be. Yeah, it would be a ridiculous amount of hoops for like a Black dude to do that and have the exact same amount of solidarity. Like he would have had to have had a whole binder full of shit about like, maybe his son's medical condition that he was just extremely upset over, and he would have had like video and audio evidence of him like on the phone to like the different insurance companies, and them specifically denying it and just being super evil, and then having an insider at the insurance company back up all of his claims, just a mountain of fucking hoops, and then it would still be like 30% less support from the public.
Yep. Absolutely. It is. I was I have that. I've had that same thought too. What if Luigi Mangione was Black, and like how how different the reaction would be. And honestly, look, even not even going to that extreme, like we could think what if Luigi Mangione was like didn't have $1 million smile and wasn't like a rich, good-looking white guy. Like even that would drop his support a whole lot. That's why I was so happy when I found out who it was. Like, oh, folks are gonna love this guy. They're gonna love him. Like everyone is gonna be like, oh, on this guy's side, and that's exactly how it worked. And the good point with FDR and how black people were excluded from a lot of the great social gains of the 1940s and 50s that FDR was responsible for. The GI Bill, which also excluded black soldiers, they weren't eligible for it. Black people were like legally barred from suburbs until 1970. 1970, like the government put all this money into and guaranteed the money for the people who invested in the suburbs, which allowed white people to move out of the city and have actual property and have a house, and said, no, this doesn't apply to black people because the white voters didn't want it. They're like, oh, we're not going to do it. They said they would not live there if black people were allowed to live there, and just systematically excluding black people from all this, which is why it's really rich whenever people say, well, the reason that black people are suffering is because of all that government money they got from the Great Society after Lyndon Johnson. First, ignore. I love asking them, saying, okay, so you think Jim Crow was bad, right? Oh, well, of course. Yeah, black people were disenfranchised. The government kept them down. The government kept them away from success. And that was horrible. 100 years of Jim Crow was terrible. It's like, okay, so you agree Jim Crow was bad, and you're telling me the government didn't owe black people a dime, didn't owe them anything after disenfranchising them for 100 years when they were supposedly free. They didn't deserve any assistance at all? No. Okay, why not? Why not? Right? Because they love to play the argument that, well, black people shouldn't get reparations because they weren't, actually in slavery. So, okay, what about the survivors of Jim Crow? My parents were still alive, still healthy and alive. They lived through Jim Crow. The government doesn't owe them reparations, though, right? It falls apart real quick. But like black people were banned from all this, and whenever people say, we'll find out that a lot of these benefits start going to the wrong kinds of people, it turns against it real quick. Public opinion, they will cut off their nose to spite their face every time if it means that black people can't get a leg up.
Yep, every single time without fail, which is part of why we have President Trump coming through next year again.
Man, 4 more years of this shit. 4 more years. It's hard to believe, actually. It's hard to believe. And I actually wrote this down a while ago. I meant to talk about this, but you were saying how these industries will do things that are not beneficial to anyone. And I love pointing this out because everyone likes to say that capitalism works because you vote with your dollar, and the best system will win. You will get the best product will win because people vote with their pocketbooks, and that's going to create the best outcome. Health insurance obviously is not the case, but there's more. You mentioned microtransactions. Who the fuck asked for microtransactions? Nobody, right? Nobody was ever sitting around saying, what would make this video game better if I had to buy it for $60 and then spend, every once in a while I spend $5 more on it until I've spent $400 on this game that I had. I want them to release an unfinished video game and then make me pay for the the benefit. Yeah, right? just make me pay for the finished product at a later date by spending $20-30 more. The fake currencies that are involved in that, and also the one that this is I can't believe this is still legal. I really can't. Subscriptions to everything. You don't own anything anymore. For the kids listening out there, you used to be able to just buy Adobe Acrobat or something. You could just buy it. You could go to the store, buy it, and download it on your computer. It was yours. As long as you wanted to use that version, it was yours. If you wanted to use Photoshop, you bought it, downloaded it, it was yours. Now everything is a subscription. Everything. I cannot believe that this is allowed to stand. Things that don't need to be a subscription. I saw something with a vehicle. I don't know if they actually did this, but someone floated it. I'm shocked it hasn't happened industry wide. But they said, okay, so what we'll do, there'll be a heater in the car, but you have to pay
the
for
BMW heated seats.
Oh, was it BMW? Was that what it was?
Yeah, it's BMW. Yeah. They have the heated seats in the car, and they charge you like $10 a month for the subscription after like the 6-month introductory period or something.
Right? It's like you could do this with every component of the car, and they will, because there's no law stopping them from doing it. I just like, if that isn't the best critique of capitalism, I don't know what is.
Yeah, so like with me, it's like video games and movies. So like I recently bought the Marvel vs. Capcom collection. I bought it twice because like, so number one, they got everybody, you know, like getting digital games, digital like TV shows, movies, all that stuff. Nobody owns anything anymore. You can't just pull out, you know, a DVD or Blu-ray or whatever and put that shit in there anymore. Nobody has that. Like same thing with video games. Like your game is just like on the cloud someplace, or you download it onto, you know, your PC, your video game system, and you play it. But like if the publishing expires for like Marvel vs. Capcom, for example, then you just can't play those games.
That's wild.
You own like the only like legit way to play Marvel vs. Capcom, like the only legit approved way by everybody to play that game a year ago was you had a Sega Saturn, or you had I think it was on like one other system, like, or there was a brief period in which they put Marvel vs. Capcom 2 on a PlayStation 3, and you could download it on your PlayStation 3, or you could buy the physical version, which wasn't really a physical version, it was just a code in the box. And if you still had an unused code from the box, you could download it from Sony's library, and you could play it on the PlayStation 3. That was it. You could not actually own like a newer, updated version of that game. Like, and then they came out with where they remade the arcade boards because it was a different license. It was a license for a toy as opposed to a license for a video game, which I don't know exactly how that works.
Yeah.
But that was like $600 or something like that, just for that one arcade cabinet of that game. Like those were the only like actual legal above board approved ways to play it. And then they came out with the collection finally that had just a bunch of games that were out of print, like not published anymore, and they put them all on the one disc. So I bought the digital version like on Steam, where I actually will play it, but I know that license is probably going to get fucked up. So I bought the only physical copy of it that you could get, which was on a Nintendo Switch, because I'm probably still going to have a Nintendo Switch like somewhere in a bag 10 years from now. Maybe the Switch 2 will play Switch 1 games, hopefully. But like, yeah, so like I have the physical cartridge to where I can still play that game like 10 years from now when eventually that license expires and you just can't get the shit no more. It's like that's the thing. Like, new thing comes out, it's like, damn, I have to spend actual money on a physical version of this thing and then find something that can play this physical version of the thing if I want to guarantee that I have access to it, you know, into the future.